Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video in the Kotlin series. In this video, instead of teaching you something, we're going to do a challenge. Challenges are important so that you can take what you've learned so far in the series and actually put it into practice and see if you can make stuff. The way that this is going to work is I'm going to explain what the challenge is. I'll give you a list of things that you need to do, and I want you to pause the video and try doing it all on your own, see how far you can get. Maybe you don't get there all the way, but maybe you can make some progress. And then once you're ready to continue, you can, play the video and I'll show you guys from start to finish how to code the solution for the challenge, okay? I'll try doing a bunch of challenges in this series so that you can keep practicing the things that you learned. And this is just only the first one, so hopefully you find this helpful and just let me know if you guys want to see more, okay? So here's what the challenge is. So we're going to make a calculator app similar to what we did last episode that can add, subtract, multiply, and divide two numbers. The way that it's going to work is we're going to start the program, and when you start the program, it's going to ask you for a command. Here's a list of all the available commands that are supported. So either exit, which will exit the program, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So if the command is exit, the program should terminate, and then it should print a nice message like goodbye, have a nice day, or something like that, okay? If the command is something else, one of these other four options here, then what it should do is actually perform that operation. So what it should do is ask for two numbers. It should validate them to make sure they are valid numbers like integers or doubles. And then it should actually perform the operation of adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. And then once it does that, it should print the result to the user. If when you're validating the two numbers, it's invalid or it's not the supported, data type or something like that, what it should do is restart to the beginning where it asks for a new command. It should not terminate the program. So this whole process should be a big loop, okay? So it should ask for a command. If the command is ever exit, it should exit the program completely. If the command is a specific math operation, then it should ask for two numbers, validate those two numbers. If the numbers are invalid, then ask for a new command. If the numbers are valid, then actually perform that math operation and print the result to the user, and then repeat again. So hopefully this idea makes sense. I tried to describe it the best I can. Just try your best. Just as a little hint though, you may find a while loop to be quite helpful for this specific challenge here, okay? Because those deal with looping and repeating stuff. All right, so this is the part where you pause the video, give it a try and see what you can do. And once you're done, once you're ready, play the video, okay? All right, so let's try this out. Hopefully you guys made progress here. So let's just start by not focusing on repeating. Let's focus on just taking in a command and processing that command, okay? So we'll just tell them what to do first of all. We'll say enter command. We'll say add, subtract, multiply, divide, or exit. Because the first requirement for the challenge is asking for a command, right? And these are the supported commands that we just listed. Now to actually accept it, we learned about taking input from the console. So we can do val command is equal to read line or null. And now we could read that to see if it's exit. So we can say if command is equal to exit. If the command is exit, what it says is we should terminate the program with a nice message. So what we could do here is say something like print line cheerio, something like that. And then otherwise, if it's not exit, then what we need to do now is ask for two numbers, right? Because we have potentially a math operation that we need to actually do, right? So let's just start by asking for the two numbers. We'll do enter the first number. And a little trick is if you remove the line part, you can just do print without print line. This will make it so that whenever you're taking in the input, it will have the cursor on the same line as the actual prompt, okay? So you'll see how that looks in a second, but we can do val num1 is equal to read line or null, like that. And now let's do the question mark operator dot to double or null. We want it to be a double because that way they can provide a whole number or a decimal number. And again, just to recap, what this will do is try reading a string from the input if it can. Otherwise, it's not going to be null. If it's not null, using the question mark, if it's not null, then we want to try converting that string into a double. If it can, it will be a double. Otherwise, if it cannot, it will be a null. So we'll need to handle that null in just a second here. But for now, we need to also ask for the second number, so number 2, and just change this to second number like that. So now at this point, we have our two numbers, so we need to validate them. So validate the numbers, and we could do that by doing if num1 is equal to null or num2 is equal to null. If either of those numbers that we just grabbed are equal to null because it can't get it from the input or it can't convert it to double, they will be null, right? So we can go ahead and basically terminate the program at this point. Well, actually, we don't want to terminate the program, right? We said if the numbers are invalid, restart to the beginning so that, we can re-ask for a command, right? We don't really have a mechanism for repeating right now, so we'll do repeat and put a little to-do message right here so we can remember to do that. So if it does get past this point though, we can assume that the numbers are valid doubles, so we can actually do the math operation on that. And there's different ways you could do that. You can use an if statement with a bunch of else if to check to see if the command is equal to any of these commands here if you want to. Another way to do it that's kind of clean is using a when. So we could say when command, and then we could add some options for each of these different commands that we have. So add, if it's add, then we could print line the actual sum. So we could say the sum of num1 and num2 is, and then we can do an expression here and say num1 plus num2, just like that. So that will print the message and also add them at the same time to show the result. And now we'll just add the rest of these. So I'll just paste it so you don't have to see me type all that out. So for subtract, it's going to show the difference. For multiply, it'll show the product. For division, it's going to show the what do you call that? The quotient, I believe. The quotient, I guess. And then for else, this is if the command does not match to any of these options here. It'll say invalid operation. And then at that point, there's no more code left to run. So we need a way to go back to the beginning here, okay? So at this point, though, we should have most of what we need. We should be able to take in a command, make sure it's exit or not. If it is exit, then we'll exit the program potentially. Otherwise, if it's not exit, then we're going to get two numbers, make sure they're doubles, and then we're going to process the command further to check to see which math operation we need to do, and then print out the result of that math operation. So hopefully all of that makes sense. Let's test it out before we make it actually loopable. So you can see now that it's asking for the command. So add, subtract, multiply, divide, or exit. So we can go ahead and try exit, and it says cheerio, and then the program terminates. So that part works. Let's try it again. So let's do add, and now it's asking for the first number. And you can see that the cursor is on the same line because, like I said before, when we don't use print line, we just use print. It's not going to create a new line, so it's going to have the the next part on the same line. So that's a little trick you can do. So we can say the first number is 23.3, and then the second number is 5. And now it says the sum of 23.3 and 5 is 28.3. So that works perfectly. And we can assume the other math operations work as well. Now, again, we need to make it so that whenever they finish doing what they're trying to do, it repeats back to the beginning so they can do another math operation. Or if the numbers are invalid, it also repeats. Okay? So the way that we can do that is actually really easy. All we got to do is take this entire thing, Control X, and wrap it in a while loop, and the condition of the while loop is just going to be true. So that would be an infinite while loop, right? So I told you guys to be careful with infinite while loops because they're infinite, right? So they're always true. But in this case, as long as we're careful, it kind of makes sense. So in this specific situation, it's just going to repeat this thing over and over and over, right? But we want it whenever they type exit to actually terminate the program. So we need a way to break out of this while loop, right? So instead of printing here, because if we just print and that's it, it'll just loop again. All we need to do is do break after we print line. And we learned about break. What that will do is break out of the entire loop so that it does not run anymore at all. And therefore, since it's broken out of the while loop, there's no more code left to run at this point, so the program will terminate as we expect. So that is awesome. So we can actually just take all of this as well and move it out of the else, because we don't need an else anymore because it will break if it doesn't match. So at that point, it will ask for two numbers, same as before. It's going to validate them, but this is the actual part that validates it. So if any of these are null, we want it to repeat because these are invalid numbers. So to actually repeat, we don't need to use return here or break. Break is not going to work because, again, break breaks out of the entire while loop, so it won't loop at all anymore. Instead of break, we can use continue. We learned about continue as well. Continue is very similar to break. Continue will just break out of the current iteration or current loop instead of the entire while loop, okay? So this will just stop the current iteration, so it won't run this part, but it will go back to the beginning and re-ask for the command, okay? So now that part should work perfectly. And then at the end here, we don't need to add anything else because, once it's done running this code, that's it. So it'll automatically just repeat from there, okay? So hopefully that all makes sense. I'm really hoping it's not too confusing. Let's go ahead and try it out. So now we're going to enter a command. We're going to try add. We're going to say 5 and 6. So 5 and 6 is 11, but now it's re-asking for the command, which is exactly what we want. We want it to repeat. Now we're going to say divide. We're going to say 8.6 and 5.3, and I'll just take its word for that. I'm assuming that's correct. I don't see why not. We can do one more. We'll do multiply, and we'll say 500 and 5,000. That is a really big number. That seems about right. Now we need to test, make sure that the number validation is working. So we can do add. So we can say that the first number is 5, but then for the second number, we'll say potato, which cannot be converted to a double. So that should be null. And now since that was invalid, it will go back to the beginning and re-ask for a command again. So we can exit now. and it says cheerio and kills the program. So now we have passed every condition of our challenge. I really hope you guys were able to figure this out or at least make some progress. It's okay if you didn't. Some of these things are a little confusing when you first get started, but as long as you understand what I did here and why I did certain things, I think that's the real important part. So make sure to check the description below for the code for this episode, and I'll see you guys next time, and stay tuned for more challenges as well. So that's it for this video, everybody. I really hope you learned something new. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Make sure to also check the description below for important links to code and other resources, but also really important, join our Discord. We have a big community of over 5,000 programmers, and it's a place where you can find new friends or get help on any code that you're stuck on. If you want to support what I do on this channel, please consider hitting the join button below, and this will allow you to support my channel for as low as $1 a month, but there are different tiers to choose from if you want to. For anyone that becomes a member on my channel, you get a special rank on my Discord server, early access to new videos, and you can just see yourself on the screen right now. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to join. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. I really just appreciate you watching the video anyway. Thank you so much. And that's it. Peace.